So, what should your margin look like as you scale a coaching business? I actually just had a friend of mine message me and ask me what margin should look like at scale. So, naturally, I wanted to come in here and kind of just break this down for you because there's a lot of lies in the space, and my intention is just to give you the honest truth with this. So, I'm going to say up to $100,000 per month, and then I'm going to go up to, I'm just going to do two sections for you because again, I never teach on anything I haven't done. That's one thing I'll be honest with you guys about. I've hit $100,000 a month and I've hit $500,000 a month. So I feel that I can properly give you expectations on this. So the thing that you got to realize with this is when you're doing $100,000 a month, you could essentially just run this all by yourself. Obviously you're going to have to, I'm assuming that you're going to be putting money into ad spend, but let's just say like you're being I'll do a super conservative and then I'll do a little bit more of like a team type of thing. So let's just say it's just you right now. I know people doing $100,000 to $200,000 a month just by themselves, and they're around 70 to 80% margin. Now, usually when you're at $100,000 a month, you have the entrepreneur bug, and you want to scale. Typically, what I always tell people is 20 to 30% of margin goes towards ads. So, for example, let me just open this up real quick. If you want to be more growth oriented, I would aim for more on the 30% side of stuff. When I first started my company, I was pushing 30% because I was still working a lot in my company, so I had the ability to do that. But as I started to scale, I brought that number down more, and I'll cover that here in a second. But realistically, with this, you really don't need a big team. If you had a team, maybe you have 10% to a closer. Maybe you have 4% to a setter. 4% setter, and then maybe you have, depending on how everything works out, you max out at 5% for CSM. Again, this is like realistically, you could do $100,000 a month yourself and probably put 20 grand or so into ads, 20, 30 grand into ads, and then just pocket 70%. So I think realistically for this, 70% for $100,000 a month is more realistic. Now, when you get to like $500,000 per month, for example, this is where most people will, if I'm just being honest with you, completely lie to you online. In fact, I've seen it over and over and over. I've seen some people say, hey, I'm doing $800,000 a month with 80% profit margin with a team of 25 plus people on my team. It's not possible. It's not, unless you are somebody like, let's just say like an Andrew Tate that just blows up and then you have a very lean machine on the back end, which even with him, I'm assuming it's not, because you have to pay out for him. A lot of the way he gets traffic is through affiliates, through people that are creating content for him. So he pays out on that stuff. A lot of people don't really talk about the hidden costs. And I just want to be honest with you because I think there's a lot of fluff in the industry. So if you're at $500,000 a month, 50% margin is what you should be aiming for. If you're above that, you're doing phenomenal. If you're below that, depending on where you're at, I'd say realistically, again, kind of like what I was talking about in here, it depends what your goal is. If you are in a more of a like growth month like this, you're going to be having a lower profit margin as you grow. But if you're in a maintenance month, let's just say you're kind of like this maintenance, your margin is going to be a little bit higher. And the reason being is because when you are in a growth month, you are investing more money back into the company, right? Like I'll be honest with you right now, today is actually the 16th of April. We pay out on my team the 1st and 15th of every month. And we just paid out everybody, and we're at a 52% profit margin for the company right now, which is halfway through. So we're on track for 50%. Now, be honest with you, the month prior to this, I brought on a bunch of new team members and I invested in some new strategies and there was a lot of variables that we added. And when you do that, you dip into margin. So anyone that's like, oh, I'm always at 50%, they're lying to you. No one's always at 50% unless they're just maintaining like that. And if that's some people, I'll be honest, some people like to just maintain like that. But typically when I find people, and I've coached at this point, over 1,500 coaches, everyone always has an entrepreneur bug where they want to grow. What I would encourage you to do is figure out what you really want out of life and your business before you get to this point, or else you're just going to have the agenda of everybody else of like, oh, I got to get to $100,000 a month. I got to get to 500. I got to get to $1 million a month. And sometimes that can do more harm than good if you don't know where you're actually going. So breaking this down, the 50% margin, typically what I found is about, again, for us, we aim between 15 and 20% goes into ads. Call it 20%, right? The next is your team expenses. Team is the next biggest thing. I've seen it usually between 20 and 30%. Let's just call it 30 because let's just say, as you're growing, it's your first time doing it, you're overpaying people. Typically, that's what always happens. It's happened to me. Every time I've scaled, I've realized, wow, I'm overpaying in this department. So right there, you're already at 50%, just like that. Now, let's say you have some overhead. Overhead, I like to keep under 5%. But let's just say it's 5%. Right there, you're at 55%. So your margin's already at 45%, just like that. And, maybe you get hit with a tax bill. Maybe you got hit with something else. Like today's April, just paid taxes. So there was money. And yes, I actually do pay taxes. I don't like to zero out all my stuff. I like to show that I run a legit company. But when you do this and set this up the right way, you can set aside budget for taxes. So it's not a big deal when you pay them. I know some people are freaking out. I was actually on a call with somebody the other day that was making a ton of money in their business. And they're backlogged 7 years on taxes. My original thought was like, dude, how are you not in jail right now? But like, that's the point is like, you don't want to be that person. You don't want to get to the point where you're just backed up on taxes. You want to get to the point where you're being strategic with it. And when you do this the right way, let's just call this, you got 20, 50, 55%. And then that puts you at what, a 45% profit margin. Well, some people are like, dude, you're operating at 45. But I mean, dude, if you're 500,000 times 0.45, you're pocketing $225,000. Whereas over here, let's just say, for example, let's just say you're at 70% margin, right? Well, 70%, you're pocketing 70K. Again, not bad, but this is where a lot of people get confused. They just look at this number and think that determines everything. Even if this number, let's just say this number was down to 30%, and you have an entire team that manages everything for you, and all you do is just create content once a week, right? Well, you're probably working less than 10 hours, 50,000, 500,000 times 0.3. You're at $150,000 a month, 10 hours a week. Whereas here, you're at $70,000 a month, but you're working 50 plus hours a week easily. If you're doing 70% margin like this, like I have a friend that's crushing it, and he's working all inside his business. He's working all day, every day, or most of the days at least. And I respect the fuck out of that. I did that for the longest time too. And it just depends on what you want. Like some people, like I don't blame you. If you want to do this and you want to keep a low margin and just ball out and just keep all the cash and deliver, like that's a great way to scale your business. In fact, I would encourage a lot of people to think like that first. But then it just depends on what you want. Like I did this for the longest time. And then I was like, okay, I want more of my time back. I want to be able to travel the world or do whatever I want and not have to stress about making sales or fulfilling for my clients. And this is where I'm at now, is on the higher like my margin is went down, but the profit has gone up. You see what I'm saying with this? So like, again, there's not a right or wrong way with this. That's why I said at the beginning of this, like you want to figure out what you want to do, because for me, I'm looking at this number right here. How much am I getting paid per hour of my time? This, you're getting paid less per hour and you're working more. This, you're getting paid more per hour and you're working less. That's just what I want inside my company. Again, like I said, there's a lot of people that are very successful like this. I have a friend right now who, it's him, his wife, and a VA, and they're planning on getting to $200,000 a month profit. Can definitely happen. He's doing a more systematic approach with this, but they all work at the end of the day. So that's why I want to come on here and tell you, like, anyone that tells you like, oh, you have to do only this one thing is full of shit. They're lying to you, because there's not one way to grow a business. In fact, there's more ways than I can even count to grow a business. But it kind of goes back to what I said, and I'll reiterate it probably for the fourth time. because I know a lot of you are listening to this, you're not going to actually take time to do this, because I'm speaking myself. I didn't do it, no matter when I got told 5 to 10 times. But when I actually did it, it kind of woke up a lot of things and made me realize what I wanted. You got to know where you want to go. You got to know if this is where you want to go or if this is where you want to go. You might already be right here and then you want to go here. That's perfectly fine. But you got to figure out what the game plan is first. So I would encourage you to actually know what that is. And speaking of one of my other friends, I think he's doing around $200,000 a month. He has a specific outline of exactly where he is and where he wants to go and where he wants to scale it. And he's in this side of the spectrum. And that's perfectly fine. Like I said, I respect that because he actually has a game plan. Where a lot of people come in, they're like, oh yeah, I want to do this, but I want to do this. And it's like, you just got to figure it out. Like they're like, I want to do this, but then I want to go back to here. Because they're like, I want to have a team to do everything, but I don't want to dip into margin. It's like, you can't really do that unless you have just a full team of VAs that just don't perform very well. And again, I think VAs are very important for a specific task, but like my team, I have 18 full-time team members, and we are built with A players on my team. And A players are how I'm able to, if I really wanted to, today's April 16th, I could hop on a flight tomorrow and go travel Europe for another month, and my company would still grow the exact same because I have positions for everything. But if you did that in this scenario, and you're the solo dolo, 70% margin, 70 to 80% margin, you're doing everything, working every hour of your week, you can't do that. Maybe you can, and you're just not going to enjoy your travels very well. But for me, I'm in a stage in my life where I want to be more present. I want to enjoy more things rather than always be stressing about some of the small stuff. And be honest with you, I've been here. It's hard to be present when you're in this scenario. When you're traveling, being with family members, at least it was for me. So that's why I made the decision. I was like, hey, I want to go the route of bringing on a team. I want to scale. I want to make more profit. Because at the end of the day, one of the most important KPIs for me inside my business on the health is the profit side. Because the profit lets you do more things. Like, for example, one of the things, which I'm very excited about, we'll be sharing here shortly, is a new software I invested in, because I've been stacking on the side so I can invest in that software. And then guess what? Since I have this whole team over here, I can spend more time in the software to make sure it's exactly where I want. Whereas here, I don't have that possibility to do that because my time is spent marketing, my time is spent on sales, my time is spent on fulfillment. Whereas here, my time is spent on being the CEO. So again, it depends on what you want. I think if you don't know where you're at on here, my advice would be aim for this first. Because the cool thing is, once you get here, it's really easy to start bringing on, I don't want to say easy, but it's a system to bring on the right type of people from there. So hopefully that's helpful. If I'm being honest with you, I've made more mistakes than I can count when it comes to margin and bringing on team members. I think it's just kind of part of growing. Anyone that tells you they built a company successfully and they never had issues with margin or scaling or team members didn't do it right. And they're lying through the teeth. A lot of people in this space, unfortunately, just lie about their numbers and what they do. And it's one thing I try my best on this channel is just be 100% honest with you guys. So hopefully you can pick that up. But like I said, if I were to just start and you're not here yet, I would aim for this. Because once you're here and once you learn how to build everything in your company, then you can make sure you bring on the right people and they're trained the right ways. And then once you have that, it's just managing margin from there. So hopefully it's helpful. Hopefully you guys found value. If you did, I'll see you in the next video.